Okay, today I just wanted to go over some barbell tricep movements. So basically just movements that you can do with just a barbell for your triceps, or at least primary muscle being targeted is going to be triceps. Now, all of these can be done with or without a bench and with or without a rack. Today, because I do have a bench and a rack, I'm going to be demonstrating everything with the bench and a rack because it does make it a little bit easier. So, the first one is going to be a just regular close grip bench press. So you're going to want to be about shoulder width apart or just inside. And then as you come down, keeping your elbows tight in toward your body, coming down just below your chest and pressing straight up, really trying to drive through your triceps with the movement. And think about, as you're coming down, keeping the weight below your chest and those elbows tucked in, so that way as you're driving up, you're really using a lot more tricep, as opposed to if you come up a little bit higher and flare your elbows out, you're still going to get your triceps, but you're going to get a lot more chest activation. So that being said, you don't need a ton of weight with this one. It's going to be, or it should be, considerably less than you'd probably be doing with just a normal bench press. As you get more proficient with the movement, it might get a little bit closer to a bench press, but it's always going to be, I would say, at least 20% lower, providing that you're maintaining good form. And that would be if you have some beastly triceps. But really, to start off with, I would not go higher than maybe about 50% what your working weight would be on a regular bench press, and just start there to see how it feels. If anything, you could even start lower than that if you want to be cautious about it and you don't feel extremely confident with your tricep strength. Now, our next movement is going to be what's called a JM press. So a lot of people kind of try to do this too similarly to a close grip bench, or too similarly to what's going to be our next movement, which is a barbell skull crusher. But with this, it is a bit different than both, but it's kind of almost a hybrid of the two. So you want to be coming up quite a bit higher, a bit more toward your clavicle, depending on mobility, maybe even a little bit higher. And again, though, you're going to be kind of keeping those elbows not completely tucked, but fairly tucked. You don't want to flare too much. It's not just like a real high bench press with a closer grip. It is going to be more of a kind of tricep extension type of movement. So with that, similar grip that you would be using for a skull crusher, skull crusher or a close grip bench, they're all going to be pretty similar. And as you come down, kind of dipping your elbows back, as you come down kind of somewhere between your chin and your clavicle, and then as you press up, focusing on using those triceps to press up. Now, for those of you who have a little bit better mobility, you might be able to get a little bit deeper. For me, I've been a little bit tight lately, so I'm really just coming down about as far as is comfortable. Obviously, as you have more weight on the bar, it will make it a little bit easier to kind of push you through that range of motion. If you can tell, I'm hovering a little bit here, but don't try and force it past a range of motion that's comfortable. Just find that range of motion that's comfortable and work through that. And then, as you get warmed up, or as you keep going through the motion, you'll probably notice you can get a little bit deeper as you go. But that's really it for that one. Now this one, I would recommend honestly not starting with any heavier weight than you would use with a skull crusher, maybe even starting a little bit lower, because it is a different movement. And until you get a feel for it, it's going to be kind of hard to really target those triceps. You're going to find yourself probably changing the bar path quite a bit, trying to engage your chest a little bit more, or maybe just turn it into more of a close grip bench if you're not being careful. So I would start very light on this one. Probably no more than about 25% of what you would be doing for repetitions on bench press, and just get a feel for the range of motion, get a feel for the movement, get a feel for how you're going to be activating your triceps effectively through the movement. Now our final one, probably my favorite, is just going to be a traditional barbell skull crusher.
Now, if you do have a rack, I love to do this kind of backwards on the rack because I feel like it's the easiest way to make sure that the rack is not getting in the way of your skull crusher movement. So usually what I'll do is flip around backwards like this, and then kind of press it up off the rack. Like I said, pretty similar grip to where you're going to be on your close grip bench press and your JM press, except this time your elbows are going to be pretty much staying stationary as your hands are what's moving, so it's all elbow flexion and extension here. So you should be coming toward the top of your forehead or toward the top of your head, hence the name skull crusher. Now, what you can do with this one, but it has to be a deliberate movement, you don't want to be swinging with it, is you can come back a little bit. Now what that's going to do is it's going to get a little bit more of the stretch through the tricep by moving that shoulder joint a little bit. But you want to make sure if you're doing that you're doing it for that extra stretch, and then it's a very controlled movement. And so with that, you're going to be coming toward the top of the bench, but what you don't want to do is be coming here and then throwing your hips up and kind of throwing your whole body into it, because obviously that's not really going to be helping isolate the triceps too much. So it would maybe do, if you were to do these, all three of these, and you didn't have the bench press, do the skull crusher first, then the JM press, and then finish with the close grip bench press. That way, by the time you're getting to that close grip, your triceps are fairly fatigued, and it doesn't matter that you're not able to use quite as much weight on that one. Also, you could just do a kind of like a diamond push-up or a close grip push-up where you keep your hands a bit more toward your belly and then elbows tucked in and focus on that tricep extension. If you do not have a bench press and you're looking to get a similar close grip bench press type of movement, that push-up, especially to finish off with, is not a bad option.